All right, good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, June 20th, and it's 3:30 p.m., and this is the annual City of New Ulm Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan Annual Public Informational Meeting. I'm Joe Stadheim, City Engineer for the City of New Ulm, and I'll be giving the presentation today. Brief look at the agenda today. We'll give an introduction and background of the Stormwater Program, give a 2023 program update, discuss our anticipated new items for 2023 and beyond. We have a special section on pet waste, illicit discharge, and salt use. And then we'll have any written or oral comments and questions. So what is a SWIP, or a Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan? It is a plan that identifies potential sources of pollution, describes practices and resources to reduce pollutants that enter our public waterways that surround New Ulm, which are the Minnesota and Cottonwood rivers. We originally obtained our Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Permit, or MS4 permit, in 2007, and we are required to have that by the Federal Clear Water Act. And that went into our current permit went into effect in November of 2020. We submitted a new application for our new permit April 5th of 2021, and that was approved by the MPCA on August 6th of 2021. And with that new permit requirements from the MPCA, we had numerous stormwater ordinance updates and plan updates that went into effect in 2022. So together with our MS4 permit by the MPCA and our city's stormwater ordinance that gives staff guidance and procedures to keep pollutants out of our stormwater and getting into our public waterways. So how do we prevent stormwater pollution? Best management practices. So we have two type of best management practices, and they're structural best management practices and non-structural. Structural BMPs are things like stormwater ponds, rain barrels, rain gardens, and non-structural are things like disposing of yard waste properly at the compost site and properly disposing of pet waste and things of that nature. So how do we prevent stormwater pollution? We have numerous MCMs, or minimum control measures, and those 6 MCMs will be discussed further in the next couple slides here. So MCM number 1 is public education and outreach, and that's what we're doing here today. We also have numerous flyers throughout the year included in our utility bills that touch on illicit discharge, pet waste disposal, and proper salt usage for winter ice conditions. Staff training, we educate all city staff either via email or in-person meetings once a year, or try to once a year. Smart salt training, our public works staff, so our snowplow drivers all attended training on proper utilization of salt during the winter. We work with other MS4 municipalities to share ideas and use trainings together. And then the last item is our annual public involvement activity, which typically takes place up at Herman Heights Park and is cleaning out the rain gardens up there. So that leads us into MCM number 2, is that public participation and involvement. Again, that's where we solicit public input on the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan at items such as today's annual meeting. And then we distribute educational materials with contractors when they come in for building permits. Again, that community involvement activity up at Herman Heights, and then our SWIP is always available on the city website. So MCM number 3 is illicit discharge elimination. So this is what we work with our city and public utility staff, just to what to look for when they're out working throughout the community. In 2022, we investigated 10 complaints that were received to our office, and we acted on those complaints with verbal warnings to the parties involved. Other items include proper salt storage during the winter. So the city street department stores all of their salt and sand in a covered facility out at the street garage to prevent it from entering storm drains and things of that nature when it's not being used. We update our stormwater database and maps with areas likely for illicit discharges, mostly in industrial areas, dog park, and things of that nature. And then we update identification and enforcement procedures. So really looking for things that shouldn't be in waterways or on the roadways that have that look like petroleum-based or rainbow sheens or anything like that shouldn't be entering the waterway systems. MCM number 4 is construction site runoff control. This is probably the biggest item our staff works on with any building permit that's taken out that disturbs more than 1,000 square feet of soil. City's stormwater permits required for those sites. And then we have 2 different permits. One's a small site permit, so that's anything less than an acre, and large site permit, anything greater than an acre in size. In 2022, we had 11 total permits. One of those being a large site, and of those permits, we had 245 site inspections that went along with those 11 permits that were granted. We had very good, I would say upwards of great contractor compliance with 1 verbal enforcement action that was resolved relatively quickly. So MCM number 5 is post-construction management. So that really is for developers and what they have to do after the project's complete. So that's your pond maintenance or rain garden maintenance and things of that nature. That's always a continuing process as new infrastructure is brought online. So as new development happens, there's new stormwater ponds, and then we enter those into our stormwater database. And finally is MCM number 6 is pollution prevention. So on a yearly basis, city staff inspects 100% of the city outfalls. So city's storm sewer outfall would be any pipe that discharges to the Minnesota Cottonwood rivers and stormwater ponds that are throughout the city. We ensure that they are utilizing the appropriate BMPs and everything's working as intended. We updated and adopted a new snow and ice control policy. Again, touching on that smart salting training for snow removal staff. And we continue to update our stormwater maps for areas of source pollutants. Kind of the main one would be Sadie's Street Garage with that salt storage, and then the dog park for obviously pet waste items and things like that. And we use those items to update our model and when we do our permit required reporting to the MPCA. All right, here's just a few pictures of stormwater infrastructure throughout the city. The top 2 pictures are storm sewer outfalls along the Minnesota River. The one on the right, slightly hard to see, but that's the one at Center Street. And then the lower pictures are ponds, one up at MLC and the other by the Civic Center. So what changes did we have in 2022? Stormwater ordinance was updated to address salt storage. Again, the only real storage facility we have within the city is the city street garage. We updated the city snow and ice control policy to meet the current requirements. And we updated the city stormwater manual to comply with our new permit requirements as well. All relatively minor changes, nothing changed real significantly, but it did bring us into compliance with our 2021 permit that was adopted. So what can we expect in 2023 and beyond? We will continue to look for educational opportunities with the public, especially when referencing illicit discharges and proper disposal of pet waste, salt storage and salt usage for ice control. We will utilize KNUJ radio spots and utility bills stuffers as appropriate. MCM number 2, we added numerous items concerning smart salting and pet waste. So you may have seen those in your utility bills as far as how to properly dispose of your pet waste. And once we get closer to winter, there'll be one on salting as well. And then the public involvement activity is kind of a shared rain barrel event and rain garden cleaning up at Herman Heights Park. MCM number 3, we will was the ordinance update for salt storage and continued stormwater mapping updates, GIS updates, showing those point sources for illicit discharge locations. And we went through and updated our enforcement procedures and policies as well. No updates are anticipated at this time on the MCM number 4. That's the construction site requirements. That permit is the construction site permit is currently being rewritten by the MPCA, so we would expect that within the next year or two that there will be a new construction site permit. That will have some changes, I'm sure, with that as well. MCM number 5, again, we updated the manual and ordinance. Right now, we probably won't have any further updates until our next permit renewal in a handful of years. And then we will continue to send public works staff and have them get trained with the smart salting training that's put on by the MPCA as well. And continue the process of creating our bacteria control plan, and that really has to do with the dog park and pet waste and things of that nature. So you may have seen the utility bill flyer that was referencing Scoop the Poop. So again, this is touching on animal pet waste, and that's one of many small sources of pollution that can affect water quality for humans. Pet waste contains nutrients and pathogens that harm water quality, and the easiest way to prevent that is to clean up after your pet each and every time and dispose of the waste properly. It should be noted that we are not to throw pet waste into storm drains. That is against city ordinance and should not be a practice that is followed. So please do not do that. Illicit discharge. So anything that is not stormwater runoff, or I should say clean stormwater runoff, is an illicit discharge. There are a couple exceptions to that. That includes residential car washing, firefighting, and then just natural groundwater. A lot of our items that we found for illicit discharge are people dumping chemicals into storm drains or just on the roadway or back in the alley, leaky containers, leaky dumpsters, and then blowing grass clippings or pet waste out into the roadway and not disposing of those items properly. It should be noted that in many areas, and especially in the grid system of the city, those pollutants go directly to the river, either the Minnesota or Cottonwood, without being treated. There's no stormwater ponds in the original grid portions of the city. So that enters, once it gets into the storm sewer piping system, it's straight to the river without being caught. And how can we prevent that? Is properly keep and dispose of hazardous waste and chemicals in your home. Clean up lawn clippings and leaves off the roadways or sidewalk, and clean up after your pets. And what to do if you suspect an illicit discharge is you can notify the offender of the city's stormwater ordinance, or you can contact the city engineer's office and fill out a complaint form, and those are also found on the city website, and you can do so without listing your name or any contact information as well. So proper salt use. So why are we worried about proper salt usage for ice control? So only 1 ounce of salt can permanently pollute 30 gallons of water. So it's not cheap or easy to remove that once it's in the waterway system. It should be noted that 12 ounces of salt can cover up to 10 sidewalk panels. So many times we find that people use way too much salt and then it goes to waste. Anything that's left over can be swept up and used again. And it should be noted that most ice melt salt mixtures are good for temperatures around 15 degrees Fahrenheit. So once we get below 15 degrees Fahrenheit, it's better to use grit or sand to help with your traction on iced driveways and sidewalk panels. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. I have not received any written comments, and it looks like we do not have any oral comments and questions from the audience today. So that would conclude the 2023 City of New Ulm Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan informational meeting. Thank you.